The Thompson family was like any other in their small town, full of love but burdened by financial struggles. The father, John, worked tirelessly as a mechanic, while his wife, Mary, managed their home and took care of their 3 children, Emily, Sam, and the youngest, Lily. Every year, they did their best to make Christmas special, but with mounting bills and no extra money for presents, the holidays felt more like a burden than a blessing. Despite their hardships, they always found joy in being together, their home filled with laughter, love, and warmth. However, as Christmas approached that year, it became clear that their limited means would prevent them from having the kind of holiday they all longed for. As the days passed, the children's excitement for Christmas grew, but John and Mary couldn't help but feel the weight of disappointment. They knew they couldn't afford to buy presents, let alone put together a Christmas feast. The thought of telling their children that this Christmas would be different, that there would be no surprises or festive treats, filled them both with dread. Despite these challenges, they promised each other they would make the best of things, focusing on spending quality time together. They still had each other, and in the end, that was what mattered most. Little did they know, a miracle was just around the corner, ready to change their entire Christmas. Christmas Eve arrived, and the air was filled with the stillness of a heavy snowstorm. Inside the Thompson home, the Christmas tree stood in the corner, its branches sparse, only a few ornaments hanging limply. John, sitting by the fire, stared at the flickering flames, lost in thought. His heart sank when he looked at the pile of bills on the kitchen table. He had promised his children a good Christmas, but the reality was there would be no gifts, no stockings to fill, and no special treats to enjoy. All that was left was the hope of making it through the storm, both literally and figuratively. Mary, too, felt the disappointment weighing her down but tried to maintain a cheerful facade for the sake of the children. That night, as the wind howled outside, Emily and Sam lay in bed, wide-eyed with anticipation. They tried to remain hopeful, despite the reality of their circumstances. Lily, however, was blissfully unaware of the financial strain and simply whispered her Christmas wishes to the stars outside her window, clutching the small letter she had written to Santa. It was simple, just a wish for her family to be happy, together, and safe. As the family gathered together in the dimly lit living room, the atmosphere was filled with a mix of nostalgia and sorrow. They sat, talked, and laughed, but deep down, they all knew that this Christmas wouldn't be the one they had dreamed of. The snowstorm outside intensified overnight, leaving the town blanketed in thick snow by morning. The streets were empty, the only sound being the soft crunch of snow underfoot. John had tried to shovel the driveway, but the storm had already made that impossible. The power flickered on and off, casting eerie shadows in the house. Mary huddled with the children, trying to keep their spirits up by reading Christmas stories. But despite their attempts to keep the holiday lighthearted, the family's mood grew increasingly somber as the hours passed. The storm made everything feel more isolating, as if the world outside was closing in on them. As the family prepared to settle in for the night, hoping the power wouldn't go out completely, a knock at the door caught them by surprise. John opened it cautiously, unsure of who would be out in such a harsh storm. Standing at the doorstep was a man, his face half hidden by the snow-covered hood of his coat, his hands trembling from the cold. Without a word, the stranger stepped forward, his boots leaving tracks in the snow as he asked for shelter. John hesitated, but then, realizing that the man was clearly cold and stranded, he invited him in. Little did they know that this stranger's arrival would mark the beginning of a series of events that would forever change their Christmas. John offered the stranger a warm seat by the fire, his own thoughts swirling with uncertainty. He didn't have much to give, but hospitality was a value his family held dear. Mary quickly prepared a small meal of soup, the last of their supplies. As they ate, the stranger introduced himself as David, a traveler who had gotten caught in the storm while heading through town. He was quiet, with kind eyes, and seemed to appreciate their hospitality more than anything. John felt a strange mix of gratitude and guilt, grateful for having someone to talk to during the bleakness of the holiday but guilty that they couldn't offer more. As David shared stories of his own Christmas memories, how his family would gather around the tree and exchange homemade gifts, John couldn't help but feel the sting of inadequacy. He thought about how his children would wake up the next morning to an empty tree, no presents to open, and no Christmas breakfast to enjoy. The realization that they couldn't even provide a proper holiday meal weighed heavily on his heart. As the storm raged outside, John wrestled with his own feelings of failure. He had always prided himself on being able to provide for his family, but this Christmas, it felt as if he had failed them. Little did he know that David's presence was no coincidence, and the true gift of Christmas was about to reveal itself. That evening, after the family had finished dinner and sat around the fire, Lily quietly pulled out the letter she had written to Santa. She had been holding on to it all day, wanting to send her wish into the universe. Her little fingers trembled slightly as she placed the letter on the mantel. "Dear Santa, all I want for Christmas is for our family to be happy and together. I don't need presents, I just want us to be safe and have a good time." Her innocent wish was simple, yet filled with an emotional depth that captured the spirit of the season. John and Mary exchanged a look, both touched by their daughter's words. David, who had been listening quietly, smiled softly at Lily's request. He too had his own memories of Christmas, many of them filled with joy and love. But as he looked at the Thompson family, struggling in their own way, he realized that the holiday was not about material things. It was about love, kindness, and the willingness to share what you had, even if it was little. Inspired by Lily's heartfelt wish, David decided to take action, though he didn't share his intentions with anyone. As the family prepared to retire for the night, they had no idea that this simple Christmas wish would set into motion a miraculous chain of events. As the night drew on, the family settled into their beds, and the wind howled outside. The house was silent except for the occasional creaks of the floorboards, signaling the storm's continued rage. David, however, did not sleep. He sat by the fire, his gaze fixed on the embers, his mind working as if calculating something. He had listened to the Thompson stories, observed the family dynamics, and heard Lily's wish. He knew he could not leave without doing something to help them. Yet there was something about the whole situation that felt like fate. This family, in their humble struggle, reminded him of his own roots, and he knew that he could offer them a Christmas that would not be forgotten. David's secret remained hidden, even as he quietly rose from his chair and left the warmth of the fire. He ventured out into the snowstorm, his footsteps muffled by the thick blanket of snow that covered the ground. At that moment, the wind seemed to whisper through the trees, and he moved with purpose, driven by something larger than himself. He had no idea how much impact his actions would have, but he felt an unshakable certainty that this was what he was meant to do. As the night passed, the family remained unaware that the stranger had begun to make plans to fulfill their unspoken needs, unknowingly preparing the surprise of a lifetime. As dawn broke and the snowstorm began to settle, the Thompsons awoke to an unusual silence. The wind had died down, and the house was still, save for the soft crackling of the fire. The children wandered downstairs, their sleepy faces lighting up when they saw that the living room looked different. The sparse Christmas tree was now adorned with colorful lights, shimmering tinsel, and even a few small ornaments. Underneath the tree were several neatly wrapped gifts, each one with a bow and a label. The family's eyes widened in disbelief. This was a Christmas miracle. John and Mary looked at each other in shock, not understanding how this could have happened. David had disappeared during the night, leaving no trace behind except for the transformation that had taken place. The small stack of presents seemed to embody more than just material gifts. They symbolized the hope that had been restored in their hearts. The children couldn't believe their eyes. Lily ran to the tree, her face filled with joy as she unwrapped a soft teddy bear, exactly what she had dreamed of. Sam found a set of toy cars, while Emily was gifted a beautiful book. It was as if Santa himself had visited, but the family knew better. This was no ordinary Christmas miracle. As they all sat down to open their gifts, they felt the warmth of love and kindness filling the house. The stranger's actions had brought an unexpected joy to their holiday, something they would never forget. The stranger's departure. As the family reveled in the joy of their newfound Christmas blessings, they became more curious about the mysterious stranger who had made it all possible. Who was he, and where had he gone? The gifts were unlike anything they could have afforded, yet somehow they had appeared overnight. The family had no answers, and no one had seen David since the early hours of the morning. Mary stepped outside to look around, hoping to find some clue as to where he had gone. The air was crisp, the ground covered in snow, but there was no sign of him. It was as though he had vanished into thin air. She walked around the house, searching for any trace of the man who had brought so much happiness, but there was nothing. Just as she turned to go back inside, she noticed something curious in the distance. There, on the snow-covered horizon, were fresh footprints, leading away from the house and disappearing into the vast expanse of white. Mary stood still for a moment, a sense of awe and wonder sweeping over her. It was as if the stranger had left as quietly as he had come, leaving behind not just gifts, but a deep sense of gratitude and mystery. The family would never know who David truly was, but they felt certain he had been sent to restore their faith in the spirit of Christmas. In the years to come, they would always remember the Christmas when a stranger saved them from despair, and a holiday miracle was born. Christmas were filled with a renewed sense of joy and gratitude. John and Mary, who had both been weighed down by the pressures of life, felt lighter and more hopeful than they had in months. The children reveled in their new gifts, but they also shared the joy of the season by spending time together, creating memories rather than focusing on what they lacked. They went ice skating in the park, baked cookies together, and even built a snowman in the front yard. The Thompson family was, for the first time in a long while, truly content. They had learned a powerful lesson, that love, kindness, and the simple pleasures of family were more important than any material possession. John also found himself reflecting on the deeper meaning of Christmas. He realized that while gifts and decorations could enhance the season, the true spirit of Christmas was in the relationships we nurture and the kindness we extend to others. The stranger had reminded him of this, showing him that even in the toughest of times, there was still magic in the world, magic that could bring hope and joy. John and Mary made a vow to continue this lesson every Christmas, to focus not on what they didn't have but on the love they could share. It was a new beginning for their family, a beginning that would last a lifetime. Years passed, and every Christmas, the Thompsons would remember that fateful holiday when a stranger had transformed their lives. They never stopped wondering who the man had been, but they came to believe that it didn't matter. The spirit of what he had done, his selflessness, his kindness, had made an everlasting impression on them. The Thompson family became known in their community for their generosity and warmth, always going out of their way to help others who were struggling during the holiday season. It was as if they had inherited a new sense of purpose, one rooted in giving rather than receiving. As the children grew older, they carried the lessons of that special Christmas with them. Emily, now a young adult, would volunteer at a local shelter every year, making sure that no child went without a Christmas gift. Sam followed suit, organizing charity events for families in need, while Lily, now a teenager, started a toy drive at her school to ensure that every child had something to open on Christmas morning. The Thompson family had become living proof of how one act of kindness, from a stranger who had simply believed in the magic of Christmas, could change a life forever. Their story spread throughout the town, inspiring others to look beyond their own struggles and to make the holiday season about love, kindness, and giving back. Years passed, and the Thompson family continued to carry the spirit of Christmas with them. They had rebuilt their lives in the most meaningful way possible, yet they never stopped thinking about the stranger who had made that Christmas so magical. It had been a part of their family's narrative for so long that they would often recount the story to their friends and neighbors, marveling at the mystery of it all. And then, one Christmas Eve as snow began to gently fall, an unexpected knock echoed at their door. When Mary opened it, her heart skipped a beat. Standing there was none other than David, the stranger who had saved their Christmas all those years ago. He hadn't aged a day since the last time they saw him, his presence just as calm and reassuring as it had been when he had first appeared. David stood at the doorstep with a warm smile, his eyes reflecting the same quiet understanding they had seen before. He hadn't come with gifts this time, but there was a sense of peace about him that brought back all the memories of that fateful night. The Thompson family welcomed him inside, their hearts swelling with a mix of wonder and gratitude. It was as if the universe had allowed their paths to cross once again, and they knew, without a doubt, that his return was no coincidence. David settled in by the fire once again, and as the family gathered around him, he began to explain his reasons for returning. He shared that he had been watching over them from afar, keeping track of the progress they had made, the kindness they had spread, and the impact they had on their community. "The world needs more people like you," David said, his voice soft but filled with a wisdom that seemed to transcend time. He told them that, in a way, they had become a beacon of hope for others, a living reminder of how the Christmas spirit could transform lives. The family listened intently, realizing that the stranger had never been just a mere benefactor but a guide in their journey. He had planted the seeds of generosity and hope that had grown into something much larger than one family. David explained that his mission was never about material gifts, but about reminding people of the power of human connection and compassion. He had believed that the Thompsons, in their time of struggle, were the perfect example of how one person's kindness could change the world. The stranger's visit was not just a gift, but a powerful message that would continue to echo in their lives for years to come. As David sat with the Thompsons, the family decided it was time to give back. Over the years, they had come to understand that true giving was not about what you had to offer in material terms, but about the love and kindness shared with others. In that spirit, the Thompsons gathered around David with a heartfelt gift, something they had been preparing in secret for months. It wasn't a traditional gift wrapped in bright paper and bows, but something far more meaningful. The children had collected their favorite memories from all their adventures, from community service projects to moments spent together as a family. John and Mary had gathered letters of gratitude and stories about how David's actions had changed their lives forever. David's eyes filled with emotion as the family handed him the gift. It was a scrapbook of memories, each page filled with pictures, letters, and notes that chronicled the impact he had made. The family's love for him was etched into every word, every moment shared. "This is for you," Mary said, her voice steady but filled with warmth. "You gave us a Christmas that changed our lives, and now we want to show you the gift of our love and appreciation." David was speechless, overcome with emotion. For the first time, he felt that the Christmas spirit had come full circle. His purpose was never about receiving, but in this moment he realized that true joy could be found in the love that had been passed along to him. As the night grew late, David stood to leave, his warm smile lighting up the room. He knew that his visit had fulfilled its purpose. He had shared a piece of his own heart with the family, and in return, they had shown him the incredible power of what his actions had sparked. Before he left, he gave each member of the family a final piece of advice. "Remember," he said, "the greatest gift you can give anyone is your time and love. Hold on to that, and you'll always find a way to make the world a better place." The Thompsons hugged him one last time, and with that, David quietly stepped out the door, his figure disappearing into the snowy night once more. But this time, the family didn't wonder about his whereabouts. They understood. David had planted the seeds of kindness in their hearts, and now, they were ready to carry that legacy forward. They knew that the stranger would always be with them, not in the form of a man, but in the actions and choices they made each day. In the years that followed, the Thompsons embraced a new holiday tradition, one that honored David's legacy. Every Christmas Eve, they would gather around the fireplace, just as they had that first Christmas, and reflect on the gifts of love and kindness that had transformed their lives. Each year, they would choose a family or individual in need, and as a family, they would make a concerted effort to provide for them, just as David had done for them. They no longer saw Christmas as a time for receiving, but a time for giving, not just material gifts, but the gift of their time, energy, and compassion. Through this tradition, the Thompsons spread the Christmas spirit to others, one family at a time. They organized toy drives, prepared meals for the less fortunate, and helped those who were struggling in their community. It became a symbol of their commitment to David's lesson, that the magic of Christmas is found not in the gifts we receive, but in the love and generosity we share with those around us. And so, the stranger's influence continued to reverberate through their lives, long after his departure. The Thompsons had truly become the change they wished to see in the world, spreading warmth and kindness wherever they went. One December, years after David's visit, the Thompson family received a surprising letter. It arrived on Christmas morning, tucked into the pile of cards and gifts under the tree. The envelope was plain, with no return address, and the handwriting was familiar but not quite the same. As Mary carefully opened it, her eyes widened in disbelief. The letter was from David. In it he shared a story that took the family by surprise. He had witnessed all the good they had done over the years, and he was deeply moved by their commitment to giving. David explained that in his travels, he had encountered others who needed the same kind of support that the Thompsons had offered over the years. As a token of his appreciation, he wanted to gift them something truly special. The letter revealed that David had been working behind the scenes, quietly helping the family through various challenges they hadn't even known about. He had provided financial aid during tough times, arranged scholarships for their children, and even ensured that their home was secure. But what touched them most was David's final words. "The world works in mysterious ways. You gave me a gift that I can never repay. Let this be my gift to you, a reminder that good things always come full circle." The family couldn't believe their eyes. It was another Christmas miracle, but this time, they understood fully the depth of his words. David had been more than a stranger. He had been an angel sent to guide them. Mary and John looked at each other, both feeling a sense of peace they hadn't known before. With the gifts David had left them, they were able to pay off their home and set up funds for their children's futures. The burden they had once felt lifted as they realized that everything David had touched had led to this moment of stability and security. But more than the material wealth, the true gift was the lesson they had learned. Kindness and generosity could change lives in ways that could never be fully measured. As the years went by, they continued to live by this principle, passing it on to their children and grandchildren. The Thompsons, now older and wiser, took their newfound blessings to heart. They established a foundation in their community that supported those in need, funding scholarships, assisting families struggling during the holidays, and providing resources to those looking to make positive changes in their lives. They named the foundation The Stranger's Gift, honoring David's memory and the lasting impact he had left on their lives. Through this foundation, they ensured that David's legacy would continue, reaching beyond their family and touching the lives of countless others. His influence had come full circle, and it was now embedded in the very heart of their community. Every year, the Thompson family hosted an annual Christmas gathering, a tradition that had started as a small dinner and had grown into a massive community event. The hall was filled with the smells of fresh-baked bread, cinnamon rolls, and hearty meals, all donated by the family and their friends. This event was always held on Christmas Eve, and it became a time for reflection and giving. The Thompsons would invite people from all walks of life, neighbors, friends, and strangers alike, welcoming them into their home to share a meal, share stories, and share the love that had been given to them so many years ago. The event was a beautiful tribute to David, as the family made sure to recount the story of the stranger who had saved their Christmas. The children would gather around the fire and tell the tale, ensuring that each new generation knew of the kindness and generosity that had shaped their lives. As they handed out gifts to children and offered food to those in need, they remembered the true meaning of Christmas, giving without expecting anything in return. This gathering grew in size every year, but its core remained the same, creating a space for love, community, and the spreading of warmth to others. The Thompsons had learned that Christmas was not just a day but a season of hope that could last all year long. One particular year, during their annual Christmas gathering, something incredible happened. As the evening wore on, the doorbell rang. Mary, used to the hustle and bustle of the holiday celebration, opened the door, expecting another guest. But when she saw who was standing there, she froze. It was David once again. This time, he wasn't alone. There was a young couple with him, along with their child. The look of astonishment on Mary's face mirrored that of the rest of the family as David stepped inside, greeted warmly by everyone. David explained that he had been following the family's journey and had decided to return to see the fruits of their labor. He introduced the young couple as a family he had helped during a difficult period, much like the Thompsons had been all those years ago. David had quietly supported them in their time of need, and now, they were thriving. It seemed that David's mission was never truly over. He was always finding new ways to pay forward the kindness he had received. As he shared this story, the entire room was filled with a deep sense of gratitude, knowing that they had been part of something much larger than themselves. David had come full circle, once again reminding them that kindness was the true gift that could transform lives. Years turned into decades, and though David's visits became less frequent, his influence remained as strong as ever. The Thompson family continued to uphold their tradition of giving, ensuring that every Christmas was not just a celebration of their own good fortune, but a chance to share their blessings with others. The community they had built around their annual gathering continued to thrive, with new families joining the tradition each year. As Mary and John grew older, they began to pass on the responsibility of organizing the event to their children, who had long embraced the values of compassion and generosity instilled in them by their parents. The final chapter in the Thompson family's story came one Christmas when Mary and John, both in their later years, gathered their children and grandchildren to sit down by the fire one last time. As they shared their favorite stories from the past, they reminded their family of the true spirit of Christmas, the selfless giving of love, compassion, and time. And as they spoke, they all knew in their hearts that David's legacy would live on forever. Though the stranger had come into their lives for only a brief moment, his impact had rippled through generations. The Thompsons, now a growing family tree, were united in their shared mission to keep the spirit of Christmas alive, forever honoring the stranger who had saved it all. One year, just before Christmas, the Thompson family received a special delivery, a letter with no return address, but written in a familiar, elegant handwriting. The moment Mary opened it, she knew it was from David. In the letter, David wrote about how proud he was of the family for continuing to live out the values of generosity and kindness. He shared that his own life had taken a significant turn for the better, thanks to their example. David had been working to help others in need for years, and through the family's work, he had learned the true power of community. He confessed that it had been his life's purpose to give back, but that it was the Thompsons who had shown him the way. The letter concluded with a personal note to each member of the family, recalling specific moments of their kindness that had made an impression on him. As they read the letter together, tears filled the eyes of Mary, John, and the children. It was the closure they had always hoped for, a full circle to the stranger who had changed their lives so many years ago. But what stood out most was the simplicity of David's words. The greatest gift you gave me wasn't just what you did for me, but the way you lived your life, always striving to make this world a better place. That gift is why I keep coming back to remind you that good deeds never go unnoticed. It was a reminder that their efforts had impacted more lives than they could have ever imagined. As Mary and John grew older, they found themselves reflecting on their many years of giving and receiving, knowing that they would soon pass the responsibility of their legacy to their children. They were ready to step back, but their children had been raised on the values instilled in them by David and their parents. The Thompson children, now adults with families of their own, had embraced the tradition of generosity and compassion, and they were determined to continue it for the next generation. They agreed to take over the planning and organizing of the annual Christmas gathering, ensuring that it would remain a vital part of their family's heritage. But they didn't stop there. With the help of their parents, they began to expand their efforts to make a greater impact. The foundation that had been established years earlier had flourished into a non-profit organization that provided support for families in need year-round. Scholarships, financial aid for healthcare, and emergency relief were just a few of the initiatives the family now funded. They also partnered with local businesses to ensure that the Christmas event could grow even larger, offering more services to the community. The Thompson family had become a beacon of hope for many, and the spirit of David's gift lived on through them. Thompson family gathered for their annual Christmas dinner. They were in for an unexpected surprise. As the event went on, the local mayor, accompanied by a small group of officials, entered the room. The crowd fell silent, unsure of the reason for their visit. The mayor stepped up to the podium and, with a warm smile, began speaking about the incredible contributions the Thompson family had made to the community over the years. He then announced that, in recognition of their lifelong commitment to helping others, they were being awarded a special honor, the Community Spirit Award. The mayor explained that the award wasn't just for their financial generosity, but for the way they had nurtured a sense of unity and care within the community. Over the years, they had quietly transformed lives, often without seeking attention or recognition. The mayor then revealed that the town had decided to name the community center after the Thompsons as a permanent reminder of their kindness. The room erupted in applause, and the family was overwhelmed with emotion. The honor was humbling, but what mattered most to them was knowing that David's legacy lived on through them. They had truly saved Christmas for their community, year after year. The Thompson family continued to grow and evolve, but no matter how many years passed, they never lost sight of what had brought them together. Their annual Christmas gathering remained at the heart of their family traditions, with each year feeling like a reunion of not just relatives, but friends, neighbors, and even strangers who had come to share in their warmth. The hall was always filled with laughter, music, and the joy of giving, as the family made sure that everyone, regardless of background, was welcomed with open arms. The children who had once listened to stories of David and his acts of kindness now shared those stories with their own children. As they decorated the tree together, Mary and John looked around at their family, their children, grandchildren, and even great-grandchildren, knowing that they had built something truly meaningful. The lessons of generosity, love, and community had passed down through generations. And every year, as they hung ornaments on the tree, they would talk about David, how he had come into their lives, how he had changed everything, and how they, in turn, had shared his legacy with the world. Through this tradition, the stranger who had saved their Christmas was never forgotten, and his impact continued to reverberate through the generations. Years after David's passing, his influence continued to shape the Thompson family and their community. They kept his memory alive not just through the annual Christmas gathering, but through the countless ways they touched the lives of others. The foundation he had inspired grew larger and more influential, providing resources and support to those who needed it most. The family continued to support their community by offering scholarships, helping people in times of crisis, and creating opportunities for those who were struggling to get back on their feet. On Christmas Eve, the family gathered once again, the fire crackling in the hearth, as they reflected on the many blessings they had received. As they sang carols, they remembered the stranger who had brought them together, David. His memory was no longer just a story, it had become part of their family's identity. They knew that they had been part of something extraordinary, a cycle of giving and receiving that would continue for generations to come. And as they shared the joy of the holiday season, they understood that the true meaning of Christmas was not in the gifts they gave or received, but in the love and kindness they shared with others. As the years went by, the Thompson family knew that for their charitable work to continue flourishing, it needed to evolve. Their original foundation, which had started with humble donations and a few community events, had grown significantly. With the next generation of Thompsons eager to contribute their skills and fresh ideas, they began to modernize the foundation's approach. They introduced a digital platform for fundraising, expanded outreach efforts to neighboring communities, and set up educational programs that taught others how to create similar charitable projects in their own towns. As part of this new direction, they began hosting an annual Christmas for Alts Gala, a major fundraising event that brought together the community's leaders, philanthropists, and local businesses. It was a festive affair, but one with a deeper purpose: to raise funds and awareness for the various programs they had started, from feeding the homeless to providing housing for families in need. The gala quickly became the talk of the town, and the support for their initiatives grew exponentially. But even as they embraced modern technology, the family kept David's memory alive in everything they did, remembering that the heart of the foundation was not in the money it raised, but in the lives it changed. David's family reunion. One of the most unexpected but heartwarming moments came when a distant relative of David's, someone the Thompsons had never met, reached out. His name was Michael, and he was David's nephew, the son of a sister David had lost contact with many years ago. Michael had heard stories of David's influence on the Thompson family and was eager to learn more about the man who had inspired such incredible change. The family, thrilled to learn that they had an extended connection to David, invited Michael to the next Christmas gathering. When Michael arrived, the family welcomed him with open arms. He was in awe of how David's legacy had lived on and how the family had turned it into something so much larger than he had ever imagined. The reunion was filled with stories, laughter, and even a few tears as Michael shared memories of his father and the stories his family had kept alive. He felt an overwhelming sense of pride, knowing that his uncle had made such a profound impact on people he had never met. As Michael shared his family's history, It felt like another piece of the puzzle of David's life was falling into place, reinforcing the idea that kindness and compassion have a way of bringing people together, even across generations. For Mary and John, the Christmas after their 50th anniversary was one of deep reflection and gratitude. The years had been full of ups and downs, but their commitment to each other and to the principles David had inspired never wavered. They had not only built a successful family, but also a legacy of generosity that had shaped their community and beyond. As they sat together that year, surrounded by their children, grandchildren, and friends, they realized that they had lived through something extraordinary. They had turned a small act of kindness into a movement that had touched hundreds of lives. That Christmas, their family surprised them with a special gift, a photo album filled with pictures from every Christmas gathering over the years, as well as heartfelt messages from those whose lives had been touched by the family's charity. The album was a testament to the enduring impact they had made, not just in the holiday season, but throughout the year. The gift reminded them that their efforts, though sometimes quiet and unassuming, had sparked a ripple effect that reached further than they could ever have imagined. As they looked through the album, Mary and John knew that they had made a difference, not just in the world but in the hearts of everyone who had joined them on their journey. As the years passed, the Thompson family saw the younger generation becoming more involved in the charitable work that had become a hallmark of their name. Each new generation brought its unique perspective and skills to the table, keeping the family's mission fresh and relevant. The younger Thompsons were particularly adept at using social media and digital platforms to spread the word about their initiatives, and they began to organize campaigns that attracted a wider audience. In particular, the children of Mary and John, now parents themselves, had developed a program called Holiday Hands, which allowed volunteers from across the country to sign up and help families in need, both during the holiday season and year-round. The program quickly became one of the Foundation's most popular initiatives, connecting people from all walks of life to help others in ways they never thought possible. This new wave of volunteerism added an exciting layer to the legacy of kindness, ensuring that David's influence would continue to be felt far and wide, inspiring others to step up and make a difference in their own communities. As the Thompson family's charitable efforts grew, so did the recognition they received. One year, during the holiday season, the family was honored with a prestigious national award for their dedication to service and philanthropy. The award ceremony took place in Washington, D.C., and Mary and John, along with their children, were invited to attend. The ceremony was attended by lawmakers, other philanthropists, and several celebrities, all of whom spoke about the remarkable work the Thompson family had done. During the ceremony, as they were presented with the award, the family's thoughts immediately turned to David. Though he had not been there to receive the recognition, his spirit was ever present. It was a bittersweet moment for the family, knowing that it was his kindness, his generosity, and his belief in the power of community that had started it all. Standing on that stage, Mary and John made a point to thank David, the stranger who had changed their lives forever. They dedicated the award to him, knowing that he would have been proud of what they had built together. The recognition only further fueled their commitment to continue David's work, ensuring that his legacy would never be forgotten. The Thompson family continued to live out their mission, but every once in a while, life brought new challenges. As the family expanded and the years rolled by, they faced moments of difficulty. But each time, they drew strength from the lessons they had learned from David. One Christmas, after facing a particularly hard year with the loss of a beloved family member, the Thompsons decided to channel their grief into something constructive. They launched a new initiative, focusing on supporting families who had experienced the loss of a loved one, offering emotional support and financial assistance during the difficult first few months. This new initiative brought a new sense of purpose to the family's Christmas gatherings. The focus shifted, if only for a moment, from the traditional festivities to supporting those in deep need of compassion. It was a reminder that even in times of loss, there was always a way to help and uplift others. The Thompson family had learned that life's toughest moments could be met with the same generosity of spirit that David had shown them so many years ago. One Christmas evening, as the Thompsons sat by the fireplace, they decided to reflect on how far they had come since David's initial act of kindness. They gathered around, taking turns sharing stories about the early days, how things had started, and the struggles they had faced in the beginning. It wasn't always easy. There were moments of doubt and frustration when their efforts didn't seem to make much of a difference. But every time they felt discouraged, they remembered David's words about the power of small actions to create lasting change. Those words had been their guiding light. Mary and John talked about how they had never envisioned the foundation growing to the scale it had. They spoke of their children, now adults, who had embraced the mission as their own and passed it on to their children. Each generation had added something new, whether it was an event, a cause, or a new outreach project. The family saw themselves not just as recipients of a stranger's kindness, but as the keepers of a legacy, a mission to spread love, generosity, and hope. It was a humbling realization, and it gave them a renewed sense of purpose moving forward. They knew they had created something bigger than themselves, something that would endure for generations to come. What had begun as a small family foundation, focusing on local efforts, soon started to attract attention from organizations around the world. By sharing their story and the success of their initiatives, the Thompsons began partnering with international charities. Their foundation became a model for others looking to make a difference. What began as helping a few local families during Christmas had expanded into providing food, education, and healthcare to thousands in other countries. The Thompsons were especially touched when their foundation helped provide clean drinking water to an underserved region in Africa, a project made possible by generous donations during their annual holiday events. Their work began to make waves internationally, bringing people from different countries together with a common goal, helping others. What amazed Mary and John the most was how David's act of kindness, one seemingly small gesture all those years ago, had now created a ripple effect that touched people all over the globe. They realized that kindness, when nurtured, grows in ways that cannot be predicted but can change the world in extraordinary ways. In honor of David, the family decided to establish an annual scholarship fund in his name, aimed at helping young people pursue careers in social work and charitable outreach. This initiative was a way to ensure that David's legacy would continue to live on in the hearts of those who carried the torch of compassion. The scholarship provided financial support to students who demonstrated exceptional dedication to helping others, just as David had done. The first recipient of the David Thompson Memorial Scholarship was a young woman named Claire, who had grown up in a disadvantaged neighborhood but had always dreamed of helping people. When Claire received the scholarship, she wrote a heartfelt letter to the family, explaining how much it meant to her. She shared that she had never imagined someone like David, a stranger, would ever change her life and provide her with the resources to pursue her dreams. The scholarship became a point of pride for the Thompsons, and over the years, it helped fund the education of many students who went on to become leaders in their communities. It was a tribute to David's generosity, ensuring that his values would inspire future generations. As the years passed, the Thompsons added a new tradition to their holiday celebrations, one that connected their past with the present. Every Christmas, they now hosted a special event called David's Day of Service. On this day, family and friends from all over would come together to participate in acts of kindness, whether it was volunteering at a homeless shelter, donating clothes, or delivering gifts to families in need. The event was a way for the family to give back during the holiday season and honor David's spirit. What began as a modest family event quickly grew into something much bigger. Soon, it became a community tradition, with local schools, businesses, and organizations joining in to contribute. The Thompson family was thrilled to see so many people embracing the true meaning of Christmas, the joy of giving. The day was filled with laughter, shared stories, and a sense of collective purpose. It wasn't just about receiving gifts, it was about spreading love and making a difference in the lives of others. And for the Thompsons, it was a way to feel connected to David, remembering the stranger who had sparked such an incredible journey of compassion and change.